Colorado families, this week on Community Chat, Nares PLLC truck wreck and brain injury lawyers is speaking with Kendra Strong Tehrani, owner of the Strong Law PLLC firm. She is here to talk about her journey, what it's like to be a client of hers, and a training tidbit for the community. Kendra has done such great things with families. Just like our law firm, she is working with families to make sure that they're secure for the future. She really is good at communicating the pros and cons of every action and guiding the families into the best place to go with regards to her estate planning firm. And she does more than that, and she'll tell you. So I'm very excited that you're here, Kendra. How are you doing?
I am doing so good, Caitlin. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Well, perfect. So obviously, I always like people telling stories. And so your journey is phenomenal as well, because you kind of took all your life experiences and you have a lot of experience as an attorney actually litigating, but you found that this was a great avenue for you to kind of use the culmination of all your skills, both your life skills and your legal skills to really help families. So I'd love for you to talk about your journey into starting the Strong Law Firm.
I did. Thank you. Yes, I used to think that I didn't have a journey and it was kind of going to be boring. But what I've found is that in my journey, in my transition from various areas of the law, I have now found where I'm meant to be. And that's what I love most about my journey is I always knew I was going to be an attorney. So as cliche as that sounds, I wanted to help people. And I went to law school thinking that I would be a DA and that I would help women and children. That was my ultimate goal. And during law school, I found out that that was not actually the career choice that I wanted. And I went into personal injury, which was fantastic because even though I wasn't on the criminal side, I still got to help people who had been injured. And that really brought a lot of joy and meaning for my life. I felt very excited about going to work every single day. I loved being able to help clients, and being the only female at that firm, I had sort of what I thought was the upper hand because female attorneys, moms, they wanted to work with me. They could relate to me. And so that was really special. But after 10 years in litigation, I started to get a little bit burnt out. And it made me realize that my personality and my strengths did not match the position that I was in. And that was a hard pill to swallow. So after I got pregnant, actually before I got pregnant with my son, my husband and I started having this conversation about how I can be a better mom and how I can show up for myself and show up for my family. And what that meant was I had to let go of that position that I had been in for so many years and a firm that I was so loyal to and go out on my own because I needed to start something that I could be proud of and that my son could be proud of. So, in a long winded way, that led me to estate planning because now I still get to help women and children. I still get to protect them, but just in a different way, using the law in a different way. And that's what lights me up every single day is that I get to protect families. I get to talk and have conversations with women who are just like me. We're so scared. We have no idea what's going to happen from one day to the next, but we know that our mission is to love on these babies and to protect them. And I get to do that not only for my own family, but for the families in my community. And so that's, 11 years of doing personal injury. And that's transitioned to where I'm at, having so much more passion and conviction about what I'm doing.
I think that's fantastic. And like I said, we did the same thing for a long time, and we kind of speak to the same potential clientele, which is these families, typically with school age children, they really don't understand kind of where the next future is going to be for them. So in my case, a catastrophic injury. In your case, you're educating them kind of what to do with the finances, what the future holds for them. That's where I'm going to get into the new unique thing about your law firm and what it's like to be a client. What are those initial conversations you're having with them about kind of future planning? And what stands you apart from any other estate planning firm that there is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the client journey, I start everything with an intake call. I want to get to know you. I want to understand your goals, your why estate planning might be a priority for you right now. There's a reason why we pick up the phone and make the phone calls that we do. And I want to get to the bottom of that. I want to find out their why. Maybe they've been sitting on it for several years, knowing that they should get this done, but not having the tools or the resources or really that push to do it. It's so easy to put it off. Or maybe they were referred to me by another professional that they're working with. Whatever way that they come about to find me, I make sure that I take those intake calls personally and we get to know each other. I explain my process. And what that process sounds like is we start every meeting with what I call a life and legacy planning session. It's so important for us to sit down together. I want you to come into my office space or Zoom if that's your preference, but we get to know each other. It's 2 hours of attorney time. I'm going to ask you about your family dynamics. I'm going to ask you about your assets. We're going to get really, really personal because to do estate planning the right way, you have to have a relationship with that person. They have to understand and be able to elicit questions that maybe aren't on the top of your mind or maybe that you haven't thought about, because that's where the risk lies. So I like to explain to people that the first half of that meeting is really spent education wise. It's getting to know each other. Do you like me? Do I like you? And then we really dig into, okay, what is this all about? How do we get an estate plan into place? So we take all of that information that we gather at that first meeting and we start to talk about, what do you want to be different? If you don't like your current plan or you don't like the state's plan for you, what do you want to be different? And then we start to talk about the tools that we can put in place to do that, whether it's a will or a trust, a kids protection plan. We also have to consider incapacity. Like you said, accidents happen all day long, every single day. And we need to protect ourselves and our family members, no matter what might come our way. So that's really what that initial meeting is about. It's about education. It's about making some placeholder decisions. And then from there, once you're a client of ours, it's just elevated service all around. We're going to do a signing ceremony. And I call it a ceremony because it really is. It's a time to celebrate that you got your estate plan done. It's signed. It's enforceable. You get that peace of mind that it's done. And then we throw in a bunch of extra stuff in there. We're going to make sure that we're getting your estate plan scanned and put onto a USB drive for you. So if anybody, the bank, if somebody asks for a copy of that, you've got it digitally. We're going to set you up with a legacy interview. That's one of the favorite parts of my job. You get another 30 minutes with me and we just hop on Zoom and it's an interview. I learn so much about how to be a better human from my clients. We get their wisdom, their experience, from mother to mother, parent to parent. They just share so much about life. Some of my favorite moments have happened within those legacy interviews. And from that, then we have a closing meeting. And that closing meeting is really our accountability meeting. I've found that the 3-meeting system for us works really well, because you're not just getting an estate plan and walking out the door and saying goodbye. That 3rd meeting allows us to check in with you and see how the process was. Do you have questions now that your estate plan is set up? Especially if we have people that are going with a trust-based plan, it's not just a one and done. You've got to make sure it gets funded properly. So having that support and that accountability, instead of just sending them out with, here's your documents, this may or may not work for you. It's incredibly important to me that the plan works. And why that's important is because we experienced it within our own family, and some business partners of my husband's. They thought that they had a really good estate plan in place. And ultimately, when that person passed away, we found out that it wasn't worth the paper it was written on, because it was the attorney failure in this case, just didn't make sure that it was done properly. So my mission, when I set up that 3-step process, I set up that accountability because I don't want that estate plan to fail. We're going to keep your family out of court and out of conflict.
I think that's fantastic. And what a lot of people go into estate planning because of that personal moment where the light bulb went on and they realize how in fact important this is, and no one knows about it. I can't tell you how shocked I was when I learned about the probate process. And if I don't have a trust, all the things that I'm going to have my children go through. And it prompted me to get a trust. And so that's where I want you to speak to. You have a host of listeners right now, and they may be as clueless as I was about the process. And so if you could just explain to us kind of the different means that you could set yourself up for the future. Whether you have a will, and also asterisks what could happen if you just have a will versus trust, and how much more that protects you. Any training tidbit you can give us, it'll be so valuable.
Yeah. I think, first and foremost, there is a reason why there are professionals in this world. And I am a huge advocate of working with somebody who knows what they're doing and whose life mission is to help protect your family, or to do the thing that you're hiring them to do. So I'm not a huge advocate of DIY or going the cheap route for estate planning. That is not the area where you want to be pinching pennies, because that DIY plan or that cheap plan can end up giving that false sense of security, thinking that they did this the right way or they had really, really good intentions, not recognizing that if you just have a will, it still goes through probate.
Mm-hmm.
And if avoiding probate is important to you, it can be timely, it can be expensive. If avoiding that is important for you and your family, the will is not going to be the best tool for you. But we don't know that. Even as attorneys, they don't tell you that in law school. A will's not going to avoid probate until you really get into it. And when you start recognizing, oh, this is why. And there's a tool out there, a trust that can help to avoid that. It's not for everybody. And that's why I don't want somebody, my biggest training tip would be, estate planning is not one size fits all. And that's why it's so important to consult with a professional. We offer free consultations. It costs you nothing to come and get your questions answered about which direction's the best one for your family. So if you're looking to go the cheap route, start there. Start interviewing professionals, start interviewing attorneys, and find which one you like best and who's going to help you to accomplish the goals that you have. Because we don't want to have that false sense of security thinking, oh, I took care of this, but maybe you didn't, simply because you didn't know what you don't know. And that's why it's so important. I can go on.
No, I was just, and for anyone that's listening doesn't know what probate was, she's not joking how costly it could be. Essentially, a paper is just a tool that says what your loved ones wanted. It doesn't mean you don't have to physically go into court before a judge, hire an attorney, and actually make all of that happen. And so a trust could be a tool. It may sound more costly at the outset to get it done because there's a lot of work that, Kendra and her team would have to go into creating it. But the sheer amount of relief that your family's going to have, not to have to get attorneys or go into court later, is so valuable. Now, it isn't for everybody. And so that's exactly why you should call Kendra, just to talk for free about the pros and cons and be able to go from there. So I'm going to include all your information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on. I'm sure people have a host of information, but just to be able, anybody that's listening, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
My website has all of my contact information. So it's just Strong Law CO, like Colorado. So stronglawco.com. And directly from that, you can schedule one of those initial consultations with me. Obviously, I would love Instagram followers because I love engaging with people, answering questions, and just sharing things that I share more than just the law. I share about motherhood and what it's like to have a toddler. So if you would love to share mom memes with me, follow me on Instagram at stronglawco as well.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kendra, for being on here. We'll include all your information, the link to be able to schedule a meeting in the show notes, along with all your social media information. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Caitlin.